A Reddit thread has surfaced in response to a Channel News Asia article published on 12th September, which highlighted the growing problem of internet bots being used to book practical driving lessons in Singapore. The CNA article points out that driving schools like the Singapore Safety Driving Centre, Comfort Delgro Driving Centre, and Bukit Batok Driving Centre are struggling to manage the post-pandemic surge in sign-ups, with waiting times now stretching from 2 to 6 months for practical lessons. While the CNA article focused on the ethical concerns of bot usage and the efforts by schools like ComfortDelGro to mitigate these activities through capture and AI algorithms, Redditors argue that the real issue lies in the limited capacity of driving schools, which has remained stagnant for years despite the growing demand. One Redditor summed up the issue succinctly. "I think the problem is very clear, and it's not the bots. Despite the growth in population size and the number of lanes on the road, I don't think our driving school capacity has increased much over the last 2 decades." This view reflects a shared frustration with the limited availability of lessons, rather than the bots being the core problem. Another thread participant speculated that these capacity limitations might be intentional, aligning with Singapore's long-standing goal of becoming a car-lite society. This commenter remarked, "I thought this was intentional to make it harder to learn to drive, coupled with the fact that they've stopped giving out new private driving instructor licenses since forever." This sentiment resonated with other Redditors who pointed out that restricting driving access through such methods might be an indirect way of discouraging car ownership without implementing more obvious or direct measures. A common theme throughout the discussion was the call for more private driving instructors, as their dwindling numbers have exacerbated the problem. The CNA article notes that Singapore stopped issuing new licenses for private driving instructors in 1987, and only around 300 private instructors remain today. Redditors expressed frustration over this restriction, with one saying, "Opening the doors for more private driving instructors would solve a lot of this crazy pent-up demand. I can't understand why TP refuses to consider this when their 3 authorized schools are run like a shit show." Others echoed this call, questioning why the private route isn't expanded when the schools are clearly overwhelmed. The CNA article reported that bots are used to snap up slots when other learners cancel bookings, often leaving regular students scrambling to secure lessons. Many Redditors shared their personal frustrations with the booking systems, with one user stating, "I remember many years back when I took my lessons, it was already very hard to book. In the end, I wrote a script to help me to book lessons, and I could complete in a much shorter time frame." Another user mentioned, "I enrolled in February. It's September now, and I can't even get a single slot for my 3. These anecdotes reflect a widespread sense of exasperation with a system that many feel has not adapted to meet current demand. Some Redditors also questioned whether driving schools have any incentive to resolve these issues, accusing them of benefiting from drawn-out processes and high fees. One participant commented, "The school instructors have no relationship with the student and are paid to just go through lessons like a robot, rather than concentrating on the student's weaknesses. Meanwhile, the school has an incentive to drag the process out as long as possible, to collect as much fees as possible." This view paints a picture of inefficiency and potential exploitation, adding to the frustrations of those trying to obtain their driving licenses. Several Redditors tied the bot controversy to Singapore's broader push for a car-lite society, with one remarking, "They're probably thinking, it's part of the system to discourage cars on the road. TP failed lots of people, that's why they have so much backlog." Some users felt that discouraging people from learning to drive could lead to long-term issues, with one suggesting that the difficulty in obtaining a license might ultimately reduce the number of private hire vehicles on the road. All this is doing in the long run is making taxis extinct faster and possibly creating an issue years from now, where there aren't enough PHVs around because most Singaporeans gave up learning how to drive. The Reddit thread responding to the CNA article reveals that many Singaporeans believe the issues with booking driving lessons run deeper than just bots. The route causes limited capacity, intentional restrictions, and inefficiency, are seen as part of a broader challenge in Singapore's car-lite ambitions. Redditors are calling for reforms, such as more private instructors and greater transparency, to address the growing frustrations around learning to drive in Singapore.